Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Raising the Curtain, a Bloomington Normal Theater podcast with Ashleigh Raylin. Today, I am here with Scott Susong, the director of Prairie Fire Theatre's upcoming production of She Loves Me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So this is going to be our very first episode involving Prairie Fire. Schedules just haven't worked out, so we're going to learn everything today. Let's hope. Hopefully. So before we get going here, Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your theater background, and anything you want to share?
Sure. Well, I've been a professional theater artist for about 44 years, but I'm not that old. I started out as a child actor. So I've been doing theater my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But here, the reason I'm in Bloomington Normal is that I came here to become a professor of theater arts and the head of music theater at Illinois Wesleyan in 2007. So after 17 years, I have retired. I'm an emeritus now, and I've just moved to Wisconsin. But I've been back here this summer just to do this last production before I move on completely with my team, and it's my second show at Prairie Fire.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You did Bright Star last year, right?
I did, which is the first time. So Bob, their 25th anniversary, so they, like everybody, had to shut down during COVID.
Yeah.
And that, for nonprofits and for small theaters, that's a huge hit. So, it was hard even for us in academic theater and higher ed, in the professional commercial world, but it was really difficult, particularly for non-for-profits, community theaters, things like that. So they have been a summer stock that was going to be their 25th anniversary was 2022. And in 2022, they were coming back from COVID. Mm-hmm. They hadn't produced for a couple of years because of that. And they tried to put on a production of Man with La Mancha.
Right.
It was ill-fated between issues around production staff and lots of problems they were having there. Then also the whole cast got COVID right before they were supposed to open. Mm-hmm. And they hadn't really set up to have understudies or anything, so they were pretty much dead in the water. And so what little reserve they had kind of went by the wayside. So they were very concerned coming into 2023, like it was kind of a make or break moment.
Sure. For
a theater that had been around for, over 25 years at this point. So they had their gala. They usually do a 3 to 4 season. I mean, it's, I don't know their whole history. You'd have to have Bob or Mindy Mangialardi on to talk about that. But they usually do, like they do the children's opera, which has been touring to the schools for years, mm-hmm. which they do in relationship to the School of Music at Illinois Wesleyan, which Bob is also just retired from. So we both retired at the same time. And so that's usually their first show. And then they either do 2 shows in the summer, or they do a concert and a show, or they might do a concert and a show in the fall. So they did their Music Under the Stars, which they also did this year. But at the gala, they were like, we really need to do something that we know is going to work. So Bob reached out to me and said, I know you've taken a job in Texas. I was going to do Light at the Piazza down at the theater there. And I said, Bob, I could stay here this summer. And so I'm a union director, but I was like, I'll work out the money. And
finagle some stuff. We get that.
To make this work out. So it'll all fit. And it was a great opportunity for me because my daughter was home for her probably the last time, and mm-hmm. certainly the last time I can afford her, because she's at Baldwin Wallace, a junior in music theater, and that's the #1 BM in the country for music theater. So her star is rising quickly. So it's an opportunity to work with her, which I hadn't since she was very little. Mm-hmm. Her mother's worked with her, but I hadn't.
I've worked with her.
Yeah, you've worked with her. But I hadn't worked with her. She's just my daughter. And so it was a chance to work with her. My ex-wife was in the show. It was a kind of a big... all of my voice teachers at Illinois Wesleyan. It was my whole team. So it was just the perfect show, Bright Star, to do with a lot of people that I really adore and care about and have a long relationship with. It was not necessarily an easy process. It was very quick. It's a difficult show. And again, they were coming back from COVID, but we made it happen, and it was really successful for them.
I loved it. I thought it was great. Bright Star is one of my favorite shows. Yeah. I think it's a very underrated show that not a lot of people know about. So,
well, it's very me. I mean, I tend to do dark shows. I mean, I kind of cut my teeth on an original musical called Limber Baby Kidnapped back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
and it's about a dead baby, and there's a dead baby or they think there is, in Bright Star. So I tend to do darker material. She Loves Me is a little bit more of a departure for me. So I said to Bob, it was going to be one and done. I'm going to help y'all out. This will be great. And then I'm finished. Mm-hmm. But then, things happened this year, and I decided to go ahead and kind of leave Illinois Wesleyan. And I finished with Carrie in the fall. And I was like, I want to do one more show with some of these people. I had, both some students and some association with some students at ISU, and wanted to do one more with my music director, my long-term music director, Charlie Berggren. And Jessica Riss-Waltrip is often a choreographer for me. So Jay Riss and Charlie and I, one more show that we could do together. And so when Bob came knocking again, he said, hey, would you do one more? And I said, he goes, last year was so successful. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, he dangled some things in front of me that he knew I wanted. And I was like, I don't know that we have all those people available.
Right.
Also knowing Mary Poppins is happening, I know all the theaters, what they're doing, so you kind of know how talent's going to divide up.
How big it's going to go, yeah.
And so who you can get and who you can't get. And some people surprised me for this one that showed up for the audition, so that was great. But yeah, he said She Loves Me, and I think that's on everybody's bucket list a little bit as a director to do. It's a kind of the perfect late golden age musical, so I was like, sure, I'll do it.
So was that initially how you found your way to Prairie Fire? Was, your connection through Man of La Mancha?
Well, no, the funny thing is, when I moved here in 2007, in July of 2007, when I was moving into my office, which used to be in Presser Hall, which is where the School of Music is, the first person I bumped into was Bob Mangialardi, who I think they were doing a production that year of Annie Get Your Gun. Okay. And I was like, we have this theater, Prairie Fire Theater. But the reality was that until COVID, I was booked every summer. I was either on the West Coast, the East Coast, Europe, some other state doing professional work, because that's part of the tenure process, right? And that's part of what you have to do. Scholars have to publish and directors have to direct on a level that is commensurate so that you can get tenure. So I was pretty busy and booked and happily so. And I was able to take the kids to Europe and do a lot of things and have a lot of wonderful experiences. And it wasn't until COVID that I was, sitting in my, condo going, well, I don't have anything to do. So coming out of COVID, I was just now gearing back up to kind of get back out there and start directing again. And one of my students, one of my rising seniors, Ryan Piker, was playing Aldonza in that Man of La Mancha. So she was, between she and Bob, who were both calling saying, there's problems, what do we do?
We need help.
Well, yeah, what is your suggestion? I was like, oh, well, here's some thoughts. I mean, I don't give my unsolicited advice. So they were asking for it. So, but they didn't work out. And so then I felt a little responsible, like I wanted to help him out. I really believe in community arts. I believe in summer stock. This is a great platform for young performers to get their start in professional theater. They have a long history of having a live orchestra, paying performers, paying their staff in ways. So it's kind of, a step up from what they've done in high school and community theater and summer theater as students. And now they're getting to kind of dip their toe in that kind of summer stock. So I was really, happy to do it here. I just hadn't done it. I'd done a few things at the Shakespeare Festival, but there's not a lot of professional work that pays here in Bloomington Normal. So.
Very true. So I know you had mentioned Carrie, which I also saw that, and that was gorgeous. So what else would we have seen you direct? Anything at Wesleyan that might stand out to people?
I did 40 musicals from 2007 to and a lot of them were original musicals, things that we did in our lab theater or our Phoenix theater, but yeah, at least every season. So my favorites probably, I loved my production in 2008 of The Icing. It was a great political piece, a throwback to Gershwin, but probably like Passion, Sondheim's Passion, Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George.
That's right. I didn't know you did that one.
Yeah. Those are, all those kind of, that along with Into the Woods, all those kind of Lapine Sondheim collaborations are some of my favorites. I did a production of Hello Again I was very proud of. We did the college conservatory premiere of Michael John LaCusa's Giant. Violet. Those are, and The Life. We did a production that surprised everybody of The Life. It's not often that an undergraduate production of a thing about, prostitutes and pimps happens, but it was a really great production. It was because we had the right talent. So my mantra has always been, we have a closed pool. We know only people from Illinois Wesleyan are auditioning, and as much as we try to encourage non-majors to audition, in my 17 years, maybe 3 to 5 ever did. And then once they saw the rehearsal schedule, went, oh, I'm not doing that.
It amazes me how many people don't realize what a rehearsal process looks like.
How they're like, oh, how did you do all that? Well, we didn't just do it overnight. It took
right.
a while.
It's like 8 weeks, my guy.
So quite a few. Matter of fact, the first I heard of your podcast was last fall because y'all did a year in review.
Yeah.
John Pooling.
Yes.
And people started sending it to me going, hey, you're in this year in review. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about exactly. But that's not on you. I'm sure everybody in town knew about your podcast. I am just woefully untheatrical when I'm not working.
No, I love that.
I'm always in the theater. I'm always in a dark room making theater somewhere with somebody. So when I'm not in the theater making theater, I do go to a lot of theater, but I tend to stay away from it.
I get that. Yeah, most people know me from Community Players. That's where most of my background came from. And I was on the board for 6 years. It was like, I need a break. Just finished grad school, got off the board. And I didn't know Prairie Fire had been around for 25 years. And I started realizing, there is so much in the community that even like real heavy theater goers don't know about.
Because you tend to silo it to your theater.
Yeah.
Your little small enclave. It's like so many people are like, wait, there's a theater program at Illinois Wesleyan. I'm like, we were ranked while I was there, our highest ranking was 7th in the nation.
Yeah.
And our lowest was like maybe 17th. So we were always in the top 20.
Yeah.
And yet they're like, oh, I know there's a theater school at ISU. And I was like, I know it's big and we're small. But we actually have a really
don't sleep on it.
Group of people. And a lot of the people that you see on the Illinois Wesleyan stage today, you will see on national tour tomorrow. And then on Broadway, I have 4 kids that were on Broadway last year, and I have 3 that are going to be on Broadway this year. We're really fortunate that it's a good pipeline to the professional world. Yeah.
Let me tell you, I saw, I reviewed the Scarlet Pimpernel for the Pantograph, and holy shit, I was so impressed.
So Albert, who was the Pimpernel.
Albert,
right?
yes. So good.
Albert's he did a huge summer stock this summer. He was playing Mike TV at an equity production and taking his equity card of Willy Wonka, but he just booked, I can say this now, Tina. He's going to be on Tina tour.
Amazing.
Tina on the national tour, which he's starting right as Sarah Bachl, who was my Full Skin Passion at Wesleyan, and then did Beautiful for years and did Beautiful on Broadway. She's leaving the tour right as he's starting. So they're passing each other. But and Claire, who played Marguerite, just is about to close this weekend a summer production of Beautiful, playing Carole King. So they're all out working. A lot of those kids that were in that production you will see in Prairie Fire's She Loves Me.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I was blown away by the talent, and I don't know, read the Pantograph's review. It was really good. Perfect. No, it was
We were
great.
excited also to have Michael Hance back. He's a distinguished alum who did the original Broadway production. So back when I was an actor in New York, he was an actor in New York, and so it was wonderful that he was back here and we could use him. He's going to be directing again this fall.
Awesome.
Doing Mystery of Edwin Drood.
Oh.
And then the new music theater head, Justin Brill, will be directing a musical in the lab in the spring.
Excellent. So I know you kind of mentioned that you tend to do darker shows, which I tend to do that too. But what is your directing process like in terms of selecting the show, your casting, your rehearsal?
Well, so often if I am able to pick the show, because I'm a director for hire, so often it's producers contacting me and saying, this is what we're doing, are you interested? And lately, there's been a lot of me going, I think that should be a woman, or that should be a person of color.
Sure.
Or, because I'm a cis white middle-aged man, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that. So there's been a re-examining of how I go about things. But I will say my tendency is to anything that's messy and about the human condition, I'm all in. People are messy. And I find that fascinating and fascinating to explore with actors and to tell those stories so that people can see themselves on stage. That's interesting to me. And I love musicals. I fell into musicals kind of through the back door because I trained to be a rep actor to do Shakespeare and Shaw and Chekhov, but I could sing and I could fake dance, and I started out as a vocal performance major, so I read music at a time when a lot of people didn't, and so when I was losing out on these parts to people that had TV shows, so they had some clout, I could get booked in a high-profile musical. So I was like, oh, so I started doing more and more musical theater. So I then became fairly obsessed with literature and history around it. So I tend to find things through the research. Like, so I'll be like, I'm really interested in this writer or this storyline or this thing. But that's usually prompted by the people in front of me. I mean, like, I am a big... Like, I see talent and go, oh, I'd love to do this show with that person. Or I'd love to collaborate with it. Like, I just did this, like, whatever with so-and-so, and they're a great choreographer. Yeah. And I really want to, I want to do a show. We were going to do, if I'd stayed at Wesleyan for another year, we were going to do a show that I've done before, but I wanted to do again, which is a kind of failed Rodgers and Hammerstein called Allegro that was originally done by, it was the first time that a woman directed and choreographed on Broadway, Alice DeMille. It was the third collaboration of Rodgers and Hammerstein, and it's kind of through composed its original concept musical that inspired Sondheim to do all of his musicals. Right. But it's really through dance. So it was about, I couldn't do it until we had a full-time kind of dance director at Wesleyan, and finally Anna Corvera showed up and we had a full-time dance director. I was like, hey, could we do the show? Sure. So it tends to be other people that kind of lock me in, or somebody will say, like, Scott, have you looked at this? And I'm like, not really. I haven't seen that. I haven't listened to that for years. I thought about it, and then I'll look at it and go, oh, wait, this is interesting. I can find my way in. So I do a lot of research. That's typically how I get excited about it.
Sure. Awesome. So what do you think makes not only She Loves Me, but Prairie Fire unique to the community?
I think it's because it feels this niche. I think Mia Opera is doing this a little bit too. This niche of finding a place for performers like yourself to be able to do some things for pay. You know, as well, there's nothing wrong with community arts. Community players sells out better than any of the other theaters in town. More people see community players than probably see all the other theaters combined. Probably. So this is not me. This is certainly not me as some academic on an ivory tower going, we do something better. I don't think that's true. I think we all do something a little different. Exactly. With a different cohort of people that are here for a different reason and touch the community for a different reason. So my students tend to come from all over the country and beyond for 4 years, and they tend to not be here in the summer unless I'm here in the summer. Sure. So they're, you know, and they go back to where they're from, or they go off and do professional summer stock. So that's a very different thing. So I think having something where there is a paid summer stock situation here does keep them in here, and has. So what happens is that these students are here all living in houses together, working in downtown Bloomington or uptown Normal during the day, and then rehearsing this at night. And they're having kind of a Bloomington Normal experience that's not about ISU or IW. It's about Bloomington Normal. Right. And they're meeting Bloomington Normal, like, townies that do community players, and that do Heartland, and that do all the, you know, do Nomad, and do all these other things. And they're like, wow, we had no idea. And so then they're going to now, during the school year, when they would never go see that stuff, they now have friends that are doing that. So they're going to go see that. And these people who maybe weren't coming to see stuff. So there's a nice, I love that cross-fertilization between the communities. It lifts each other up. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. Because we forget, like, we do get siloed, and we start to think only about ourselves and what we are doing in our theater, and not other things. So I think that's a great benefit. I also think, you know, anything that provides opportunities for artists to get paid, I'm all in. Honestly, same. So, because we don't get paid what we are worth at any level. And we all have to have other jobs. And so it's just nice that, you know, Bob and Mindy have kept it going for so long. Yeah. It's not easy. And, you know, there are up and down sides. They tend to produce always at Westbrook, which is in the School of Music, which is a converted concert hall that's been redone like 2 or 3 times. It does not have the best acoustics. It's not really set up for theater or opera. It has these big organs that you can't get rid of, and there's all these things. You can't really do anything with the floor. It doesn't have a lot of space. There's no real fly. I mean, there's all these downsides. Yeah. The upside is it was built in the 1920s originally. And how cool is that? And it's old and kind of lovely, and it's a different space. So for all those challenges, we just figure out a way around it. And like I said, I love their commitment to live music. So they do that world that's between musical theater and opera and both, and some operetta. So they've done, you know, a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan and a lot of like opera concerts and things like that as well. So I like that they kind of do both. So there's a little bit for everybody to pull them in.
Sure.
So they come to see like Music Under the Stars and it's opera, maybe, you know, that's their thing, but then they'll also come see Bright Star or you know, She Loves Me. And if they come to see She Loves Me, maybe they'll go see that opera scenes. You know?
Sure.
So I think that's important too. Yeah.
Perfect. So for anyone who may not know the show, can you give us a little bit of a synopsis about She Loves Me?
Sure. So it really is look, for musical theater historians and nerds like myself, it is the perfect late Golden Age musical. So if the first Golden Age musical, well, if the genesis of that is like, you know, Showboat, 1927, and then 16 years later, Oscar Hammerstein will work with, you know, Richard Rodgers and they'll do Oklahoma. And that's the beginning of what we call the Golden Age, and it lasts for about 25 years, till about 1968. In 1963, Hal Prince produces and directs an adaptation of what had been a successful movie franchise. So it was first a Hungarian foreign language play called The Parfumerie. Then it became a screwball comedy for Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan called The Little Shop Around the Corner. And then that was turned into The Good Old Summertime for Judy Garland and Van Johnson, and that was the first time it was musicalized. So it's like, you know, a play from the 30s, made into a movie in the 40s, made into a movie musical in the 50s, made into a Broadway musical that went back to the original source material in the 60s. And then was a mild success, but then really was revived in my day, Gen Xer, in 1993 with Judy Kuhn and Boyd Gaines. And Boyd Gaines won Best Actor that year for that revival of She Loves Me. And that is really when everybody went, wait, this is kind of a perfect little musical. Like, all the songs are, like, really well done. They all make a lot of sense. It's a Bach and Harnick score. We know them all from Fiddler on the Roof. Joel Masteroff, who wrote the book for Cabaret. The book is really solid. That's usually the biggest problem.
Sure.
So there's all this kind of thing. What they do is, what they created is they went back to that source, that foreign language, you know, play that became a screwball comedy. And it is a screwball comedy. And those are like, you know, basically sexless sex comedies. So it's like where there's all this unrequited love or all this frustration or all these things, and it's all a little naughty but not.
Yeah. I get that.
So it could all fit the censors, you know, back in the day. So it's kind of fast paced. So it involves a little Mr. Marichek's Parfumerie in Budapest, and it's set there. And all the clerks that work there in the little delivery boy Arpad. One of the clerks is leaving for maternity leave, and a woman comes in to try to get a job. And her name is Amalia Balish. And she and the main clerk, George Novak, don't get along from the get-go. They just hit each other the wrong way. And so she gets the job because she sells something that he can't sell, and kind of challenges him. And then they just irritate it the whole time. But at the same time, they both are members of a Lonely Hearts Club, and they're writing letters to dear friend, and and they're falling in love with somebody through these letters, and that is each other, but they don't know it.
Sure.
So that's going on, and then there's also, you know, these other great secondary characters, because every character is really well developed. Of Alona Ritter, who's, you know, let's just say has a healthy sexual appetite for a woman in the 30s, and she's having, you know, one of her relationships with Kodai. It turns out he's kind of a bit of a wolf, but she's just a great secondary character. There's, you know, C-Post, who's the stomach nervous pill popping father that doesn't want to lose his job, and little Arpad, who's got a crush on Alona but also wants to be George someday. So there's just these great characters. So it all plays out with, you know, us very early getting on as the audience member, knowing what's happening, but watching the frustrations as they don't know.
Sure.
So it goes through a whole season of them falling more and more in love with each other in these letters and not knowing each other. They finally, at the end of Act 1, have a date, and George realizes that Amalia is his dear friend, but he doesn't tell her. And the act is over, and she feels like she was stood up for her date.
Okay.
And then we come back in Act 2, and all these things start happening. I don't want to give it all away. There's
Sure.
all these different complications. But by Christmas time, you know, because it starts at the end of the summer, by Christmas time, they know it's each other, and of course it has a happy ending. Lots of little complications in between. It was also then made into a successful adaptation for the film again, and You've Got Mail. So the thing I like about it is that, Golden Age musicals get a bad rap.
They do.
Some of them deserve it.
I could not agree more.
I'll go on record that some of them deserve that. But one of the things I think they don't deserve is people talk about women being poorly written, and I disagree. I think people have done over-sanitized basic productions of Golden Age musicals where they don't understand how interesting the women are. So Laurie in Oklahoma is working in Indian Territory, it's not even a state yet, with her aunt running a farm on her own. It's the turn of the 20th century. Women didn't do that.
Nope.
And she just happens to hire a sex offender who's also an arsonist. So it gets complicated. And then it's politically on the other side of her boyfriend, who's a cowboy and wants people to pull down all the barbed wire so they can drive cattle. So, but we're used to, the farmer and the cowman, so we think it's basic. We don't realize that woman's kind of amazing. I know there's a domestic violence issue around Carousel, but Julie Jordan as a character is fascinating. She is a young woman living with her older cousin, no man around, doesn't plan to be with a man, is working as a working girl, doing her thing, just happens to fall in love with the wrong guy. So Amalia falls into that trope for me. She's an independent woman who's working and trying to but she wants to find love, and so she's willing to answer a Lonely Hearts ad and write these letters and put herself out there, but she's independent, doing her own thing. So is Alona. The women in this show are they're contemporary women, even though it was the 1930s.
Yeah.
So that to me is great.
That's awesome.
And so, and having young people that are the right age for these roles, and also having young, Gen Z women who are ask amazing questions of well, why did she do that? And I'm like, let's figure that out.
Yeah.
Why did she make that choice? But the truth is love is love is love. And it's always been kind of, we are our stupidest when we are in love.
Yeah.
We behave ridiculously, and that hasn't really changed. So that was good.
No, that's awesome. So where can we see it? How can we get tickets? When does the show run?
So go to prairiefiretheatre.org to pre-purchase your tickets, or you could purchase them at the door. We open a week from tomorrow, so we open August 7th. The opening night is always a pay what you will. I often say that doesn't mean don't pay anything. It means just, this is if you can't handle it, because a ticket price is the standard ticket price I think is $25. And that's expensive for students, for anybody on a fixed income. So come on, that Wednesday night, that opening night, pack the house. And then you might love it so much that you do want to make the investment to come back. But then it runs Thursday through Sunday. So it's just 5 performances in Westbrook Auditorium on the Illinois Wesleyan campus. There's parking right there behind the Welcome Center and over by McPherson. It's in Presser. It's the beautiful old building that was built in the 20s. Just go in that front door. There's an elevator if you need, going through the back if you need, some handicapped access. There's parking back there, and you can come through that way. Tickets are curtains at 7:30 Wednesday through Saturday evening, and it's 3 o'clock on Sunday, I believe.
Perfect.
And you should see some hot pink posters around, and some. You can go on the Bloomington Normal Facebook page and there's stuff, and listen to your podcast and all that. All
over social media. So before I let you go, Scott, after She Loves Me, do you have any upcoming projects? I know you said you just moved to Wisconsin.
I did. Well, just moved to Wisconsin, but I think I may be taking a job in Ohio. But the thing is, I do. I have a few things. I don't know if I can let anything out of the bag yet. I mean, I might.
We'll keep it on the DL.
Yeah, I might be directing a production of Bohème. I've done that before, that opera in the South. It's looking like I might do a Hello Dolly in the spring in another state. And then possibly next summer I'll be in Florida doing Great Comet.
Oh, I love Great Comet.
So I mean, but it's always I say that today, but who knows what's going to happen between now and then, and what I might take or what I might do. But yeah, I mean, I'm starting a new adventure. I'm not old enough to actually be retired, so I'm just starting a new adventure.
No, I love that. All right, well, thank you, Scott, so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. I feel like I've known of you for, I don't know.
I've heard about you from Eden and then from Kristen. So
yeah, I did Les Mis with your son back in 2009.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I just talked to Eli today.
So yeah, I've known Eli for a long time.
What did you do in that show?
I was in the ensemble and I was one of the prostitutes.
Yeah, because I was doing a production in Portland, Triumph of Love, so I had to come to the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I was like the only one in the audience. I feel like that's
Yeah.
happened a lot where I'm the only one in the audience watching people with
No.
this like creepy old man.
And then obviously, yes, Eden with Chicago, where I choreographed out of Eli.
I always thought Eli would be if Eden was going to go to the theater, the family business, it was going to be Eli. But no, he went into the Navy. And Eden just surprised us all. Just showed up one day and said, "I want to do this." I was like, "Okay."
No, and Eden's phenomenal.
She's
so.
great.
Yeah, if you've never seen Eden in a show, go see Eden in a show.
Yay.
So, all right. Well, again, like I said, Scott, thank you so much.
Thank
Everybody
you.
go see She Loves Me. I'm sure it's going to be brilliant.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you.